A European heatwave is on the way. 40 degrees, likely across some parts of Spain, France and Italy, well above average for the middle of June. But to what extent will it affect the UK? Welcome to the Met Office Deep Dive. Thank you for joining me. My name's Aidan McGivern. I'm a meteorologist and weather presenter here at the Met Office. If you're not familiar with our deep dives, we do these every Tuesday. They go on our YouTube channel and a bunch of other places. So if you like these in-depth discussions of the UK's weather and sometimes global weather, then please do hit a like, send us a comment, send us a question, and tell your friends and family. Of course, also please do subscribe so you never miss one of these in the future. Now, before I talk about the impending heat for Europe and for some parts of the UK, I want to talk about the rain because it's not going to be hot and sunny everywhere. There will be plenty of rain to talk about over the next few days. In fact, a fair amount of rain for northern parts of the UK in particular, and it's kind of related to the impending heat wave across parts of Europe. It's all tied in with the same system because the UK is essentially sitting on the boundary of that heat, and that's why there are some uncertainties, increasingly so through the weekend and into next week in terms of highest temperatures for the UK and to what extent the heat across Europe will spread north across the country and where exactly it will rain. We're always going to be sitting on this boundary between a large ridge of high pressure which is emerging across the European continent, cooler air and low pressure towards the north, and weather fronts, rain-bearing fronts that will sit in between those two air masses. Now, first half of June, of course, has been very different. We've had below average temperatures, we've had quite a lot of rain in many places, long spells of rain, showers and so on. Much needed rain, of course, for many. And that's because we've had this relatively flat pattern across the North Atlantic. The jet stream lying in a fairly horizontal shape has been sending us low pressure after low pressure from the west, and to some extent that's going to continue in the next few days. But one important difference is starting to emerge with the jet stream. You can see it there coming out of North America. This north extension of the jet stream, it's becoming more amplified out in the Atlantic, and this ridge up towards Greenland will force a trough, a southward dip in the jet stream during Wednesday into Thursday out to the west of the UK and the mid-Atlantic. And as that jet stream trough emerges, what we're going to see is a very strong ridge develop over Europe, a very strong area of high pressure. And over the next few days, that's going to lead to a lot of sinking air across Europe under that strong area of high pressure. And as I've mentioned in the deep dive before, sinking air, not only does it disperse the clouds and allow for strong sunshine, but it also heats up the air as that air compresses, just like when we pump up the tyres on our bikes, the air heats up because it's being compressed. So that compressional heating is going to take place over the next few days across Europe. It's going to turn hotter and hotter during the rest of the week under a strong area of high pressure. But we've also got this trough in the jet stream in the mid-Atlantic, which will keep sending areas of low pressure towards the northwest of the UK. And in between that heat over Europe and the cooler air to the northwest of the UK, we've got what we call a baroclinic zone. That's basically a gradient in temperature from hot here to cool here. And it's along that boundary where we see weather fronts. And those weather fronts will be aligned a lot of the time with the wind, so they'll just be persisting in the same sorts of places, the north and the west of the UK, ebbing and flowing over the next few days. It's what we call a waving weather front. You can see that, a cold front here and then a warm front as it pulses north and then another cold front. And we're going to see these fronts affect the north and northwest of the UK over the next few days, bringing bouts of rain. So it's all tied in with this bigger picture, high pressure and heat developing over the continent and low pressure to the northwest of the UK in between these wriggling weather fronts bringing outbreaks of rain to the north and northwest of the UK. You can see how much rain is going to occur by these maps here. And those areas are affected. So essentially, anything in blue is 0.1 to 50 millimetres of rain for each 24-hour period. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. We're seeing outbreaks of rain at the moment, especially across parts of Wales and Western England during the rest of Tuesday. Into Wednesday, further spells of rain for many parts of the UK. Dry for the far southeast and east of England. But that northwest-southeast difference really gets more exaggerated through Thursday and Friday. You can see how it turns wetter across North Wales, Northern England, southern Scotland. The darker blues here and a few spots of yellow indicating something around 50 millimetres in a 24-hour period. It's northwestern hills that will get the most rain during the next few days. Northwest England, southwest Scotland. And then on Friday, west and northwest Scotland, parts of Northern Ireland, wetter again. But increasingly it's dry across the Midlands, the east and southeast of England, and increasingly hot as well, as that expanding area of heat over the continent starts to affect the south and southeast of England. Eastern parts of England later this week and into the weekend primed for some relatively high temperatures for June. Let's look at the day-to-day detail quickly before we focus on temperatures. Here's Tuesday and a lot of cloud across the UK with outbreaks of rain for many western and northern parts of the UK. Patchy rain on and off, but heaviest, most persistent across Wales. The jet stream sending weather fronts in. By Wednesday, those same weather fronts are still lingering across central parts. It's a muggy night tonight and then a warm but rather grey and misty start for many of us on Wednesday. Outbreaks of rain first thing, turning more showery into the afternoon. Some breaks in the clouds, some sunny spells emerging. Temperatures responding well, low to mid-20s as that happens, but no heat wave yet. Into Thursday, and you can see it turns wetter in the northwest. Here's the rain across North Wales, Northern England, southern Scotland, for example. Some heavy and persistent rain, and as I just mentioned, 50 millimetres or so in places. Jet stream sending an area of low pressure to the northwest of the UK. And a brisk breeze as well. But that breeze is coming from the southwest, so it's a relatively warm day once again. Thursday, we're talking about 25 to 28 Celsius in the southeast, where there'll be some reasonable spells of sunshine by the afternoon. Into Friday, and it's the same northwest-southeast gradient across the country. Scotland, parts of Northern Ireland, the northwest of England, West Wales, still seeing further wet weather at times. Caught on the boundary between the emerging hot weather that we've got towards the southeast and the much cooler weather towards the northwest. You can see that temperature contrast, and in fact this map here is underdoing the temperature contrast. 13 Celsius it says there for Stornoway, but actually we're likely to see 32 Celsius in a few spots across East Anglia and the southeast. This isn't quite capturing the peak temperatures in the peak hotspots. So a really significant temperature contrast, northwest to southeast across the UK as we end the working week. We can call it hot and sunny in the southeast. It's going to be grey and damp in the northwest. Now, if you're in the north and northwest and thinking, well, I'd quite like some summer-like weather, why does the southeast get it all the time? Actually, there is going to be some drier weather heading your way for the weekend, because by that stage, the high pressure over the continent and that bubble of heat that is expanding all the while, that's going to spread further north through Saturday. One caveat though, a cold front will just work its way southeastwards, so temperatures will be a little lower where it's hottest in the southeast. On Friday, temperatures will drop away a little, most likely temperatures 28 Celsius, but mostly sunny as you can see, so still feeling pretty hot out there in the strong sunshine, which of course peaks this weekend because of the June solstice. So yeah, very high UV levels most likely. And you can see across Scotland, Northern Ireland, a bit of cloud, one or two showers, but much drier compared with Friday and Thursday, lighter winds as well. Sunday, well, that's when we're going to see, again, high pressure dominating the weather across much of the UK. Warm or very warm for many places, increasingly hot for the south and southeast, up to 32 Celsius once again in the south and southeast. but a bit warmer further north as well, with plenty of sunshine, at least at first, for Scotland and northern England. Nowhere near as hot as it's going to be across the continent, however, and there's a lot more confidence about how much the temperatures will rise over the next few days across the continent because it's more straightforward. We're not talking about a boundary between hot air and cool air and a wriggling weather front. It's quite straightforward. If you're in France and Spain and Italy between now and Monday, it's simply temperatures rising each day under that intense area of high pressure. Let's take a look. A few graphs showing that temperature rise because it really is quite significant. Worth remembering as well, this is June we're talking about. It's not the hottest summer month in Europe. July and August, we see the peak of the heat. So, yeah, these are unusually high temperatures. We're talking widely across Spain and into France. I'm going to put on all the locations here that we've got temperatures for. We're talking widely across Spain, France, across Central Europe, 10 degrees above average. And let's put on a few places. Let's take a look at Madrid, for example. You can see that temperature rise over the next few days. Madrid typically around 30, 31 Celsius in June. That's the average temperature. So we're at that at the start of the forecast, and then it's rising up into the mid-30s Friday, Saturday, 38 it's saying there for Sunday, Monday. Wouldn't be surprised if it's a little bit higher. I think this here is Zaragoza. There we go, Zaragoza. Now, their average temperature, 33 Celsius for this time of year. We're starting at 35, 37, all the way up to 41 Celsius by Sunday and Monday. Madrid, by the way, is a bit higher than other locations across Spain, so it doesn't typically get quite as high as, for example, elsewhere where we've got lower elevations. Get another example there, 40 Celsius. Let's move further north, where actually, as you go into France, into the Alps, into parts of Central Europe, temperatures are more extreme compared with climatology. So 35 there. Let's see, Saint-Étienne, 38 by the weekend. Lyon, 38. And further north into parts of central France, we've got some 40s coming up for the weekend. And again, worthy of emphasis, this is probably underdoing it by a couple of degrees given the resolution of the model underneath. But it's still high 30s. Paris, high 30s it's saying, but I suspect it will be a little bit higher. So it's a consistent temperature rise through the next few days. And I mentioned that it's actually more unusual for these parts of Europe for the time of year. And this is illustrated nicely. I've shown these extreme forecast graphics in the past, and basically just to make sure you get your positioning here, there's the UK, there's Ireland, there's Norway, Sweden. The rest of Europe is covered by red because it's so extreme, and it's encapsulated by this black line and the darker reds. These are areas where basically the colours and the lines mean that the predicted temperatures for Saturday, Sunday and Monday in this large part of Central and Northwestern Europe are fairly extreme compared with the model climatology, the European model. So when the European model looks back at 50 years of reanalysis, 50 years of data, and this comes out as well above what we usually see at this time of year in these locations. So this huge area across Central and Northwest Europe, not including Scotland, not including Northern England or Ireland, that's where it's going to be most extreme. Coastal areas, of course, people who are on holiday in, say, Malaga or Barcelona, coastal areas will be moderated significantly by the sea temperatures, but inland, that's where high 30s, 40, 41 Celsius expected. And another way of showing how extreme it is are these meteorograms. This is Geneva, and we're often showing these, but just in case you haven't seen it before, this is the temperature trend over the next 2 weeks. So it starts off Tuesday, the 16th of June, goes out to Tuesday, the 30th of June. Each box and whiskers shows the predicted maximum temperatures for each day. That's the red, and the blue boxes are the minimum temperatures by night. And then the lines, essentially the thick red line here is the average for the time of year, and then the thinner red line is the extreme in the model climate. So what we've got here for Geneva is that these boxes are going up to the extreme already on Tuesday, and then going several degrees above the extreme for all the way to Monday, Tuesday as well, perhaps Wednesday. And those boxes remain small every day up until Monday, which indicates there's not much spread in the models, or not much uncertainty in the models until Tuesday. And then there's a greater range of likely maximum temperatures. The minimum temperatures go up to the average daytime temperature line, as you can see. So really quite uncomfortable nights as well. We're talking about low to mid 20s for the overnight temperatures in Geneva. And for the daytime temperatures, low to mid 30s, well above what we'd normally see for the time of year, 10 degrees or more above average. Not just Geneva, but this is Paris as well. This rapid rise over the next few days, and then peaking through the weekend, or perhaps even Monday. There's a bit more uncertainty. The boxes are a little bit bigger by the time you get to Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and that just indicates that the further you go north, the closer you are to that boundary between the hot air over Europe and the cooler air further north, closer to the UK. And so the uncertainty increases through the weekend, and I'll have more on that in just a moment. One final graphic to show the extraordinary heat over Europe. And this shows the probability of 35 Celsius or higher. We'll skip ahead to Monday, a little bit further. And there we go, 2 p.m. Monday. So you can see the extent of yellowy colours, which indicates there is a chance that temperatures will exceed 35 Celsius. And again, it's a low resolution model. It's possibly underdoing it a bit. There's even a hint there in London and the southeast. So this is Monday afternoon, 22nd of June. The probability temperatures will get greater than 35 Celsius. Monday, possibly the peak of the heat, but a lot of uncertainty from Monday onwards due to the positioning of various lows and highs that I'll go on to in just a moment. Now, I mentioned the temperatures for the UK, 28 degrees, the likely high in the southeast. On Thursday, 32 on Friday. Saturday, 28 again, because of a cold front that brings something a little fresher from the northwest, but still plenty of sunshine. And then on Sunday, 32 Celsius once again. But with that rise in temperatures comes the increased risk of some thunderstorms. And just to show you the likely locations for those thunderstorms, this is a similar graphic to the extreme forecast index graphic that I showed for the temperatures, but this is for thunderstorms, and it essentially shows how extreme the potential energy in the atmosphere is. So the energy available for convection, or the energy available to spark thunderstorms, that can be caused by a couple of things. It can be caused by low pressure way up in the atmosphere that forces the air to rise because the low pressure at the top of the atmosphere causes a vacuum, so the air is sucked up. So that can be one cause of convectively available potential energy, or CAPE, that's what we call it. Another cause of high CAPE, high energy, is the high temperatures at the surface causing the air to rise. And that's the more likely cause of this. So this graphic essentially shows that across parts of eastern England, and this is Friday, by the way, eastern England, up into parts of the North Sea, northern France, to the Low Countries, that's the area where there is the most available energy to spark very, very significant thunderstorms. And we're talking about large hail, gusty winds, torrential rain, frequent lightning. It's in this area where that's the greatest risk. Doesn't mean they're guaranteed, because we haven't quite got the upper low that you might need to more effectively cause these thunderstorms, but there's a lot of energy at the surface because of the heat and humidity at the surface that is wanting to rise up and develop these big thunderstorms. So That's just to flag later Friday, and also a similar thing on Saturday and into Sunday, the risk of these really quite lively thunderstorms developing. I haven't got the graphic, but one difference with Saturday and Sunday compared with this one is that the Saturday and Sunday graphics don't quite cover the east of England, but they still cover parts of France and the Low Countries, so still the chance that these lively thunderstorms will develop over the Channel and drift towards the far southeast of the UK. Of course, we'll keep our eye on that and keep you updated over the next few days. Far too early to give specifics, but just to flag that potential. Into next week, as I mentioned, it may well be that the heat peaks on Monday. For the UK, it becomes increasingly uncertain on Monday itself, because what we've got on Sunday, as you can see, is a more and more complex situation developing. Low pressure heading south with this trough in the jet stream, another branch of the jet stream splitting and going north, and then the computer modelling somewhat diverges from early next week, depending on what happens to this low. One scenario is that it drifts a little bit further south and the whole jet stream amplifies further, and you get more heat developing more widely across the UK, and it's an even hotter day compared with Sunday. Another scenario is that that low ends up drifting northeastwards across the UK and eventually allows something a little fresher in from the northwest, not just for the UK, but for parts of northern Europe. And you saw the uncertainty there for Paris from Monday as well, the big spread on its meteogram. So there are some various scenarios to consider for next week, and just to illustrate them, first of all, actually, this graphic that I've shown before, oh, there it is. This shows the temperature trend from not just one, but 51 computer model runs from the European model. So there are lots of lines on this graphic, and at first they're all pretty much the same. That's why the colour is quite a nice bold yellow-red colour, and you can see that daytime and nighttime temperatures are increasing. This is for London, increasing and then going up well above average for Friday, dipping a little bit on Saturday and then increasing again on Sunday. But Monday, here we go, look at that. A lot of the lines take it to similar values as Sunday. Some of the lines, only a few, take it well above. So really into quite extreme temperatures, but only a small number of lines. Remember, this is 51 computer model runs, so we're talking about 2 or 3 taking it well above 30 degrees there. And then that uncertainty continues into next week. There are more lines that remain above average but not as extreme and dipping a little bit Tuesday onwards. So you can see this general clearer outline here through Tuesday, where it's not quite as high, into Wednesday and so on. But still, there are some extremes that take the temperatures well above the most likely values for early next week. So there's a most likely scenario for next week, and then there's a much less likely but more extreme scenario as far as the temperatures are concerned. It's not just London. Here we go, we can move it around the country. Here we are in the Midlands, and you can see temperatures peaking into Sunday and then somewhat lowering through next week, except for a small handful of computer model runs that continuously increase the temperature. Moving it further north, the temperatures as a whole get lower, but the uncertainty for the same period remains. So this is for Glasgow. You can see we're not really seeing the kind of high temperatures that we're seeing further south, but we're still seeing the same kind of uncertainty through next week in terms of whether it's going to get hot in Glasgow, relatively small likelihood of that, or more likely stay about the same as the weekend. And then we take it further north again. And actually it becomes a bit more confident when you get to northern Scotland that temperatures will dip through next week and remain around the mid to high teens. Let's take a look, finally, at some of the scenarios that are leading to that wild temperature variation from Monday, because I think this is quite interesting to show as well. I'm going to show the most extreme hot scenario, and just bear in mind when you see this, it's a relatively small likelihood that this will actually happen because it's not that supported by most of the computer models. But we've got member 31 here, and if I zoom out, we get a European view, which is quite interesting. Now this is showing Tuesday, time of recording, 2 p.m. But if I fast forward to next Tuesday, a week's time, you can see some really quite high values still across France, 39 there for Paris. It's got 36 for London, which would be pretty close to the June record if that happened. But just to emphasise, this is picking the most extreme scenario from the computer modelling. This is the hottest one I found because it helps to illustrate how it got this hot. And what we've got here is low pressure staying to the south of Greenland, high pressure close to the Azores, and the jet stream, if you imagine, is coming around here and then going well to the north of the UK, and this plume over Europe extending north. So it's high pressure, ridge of high pressure over Europe just extends its influence across the whole of the UK. You can see how that evolves. From Sunday, we've got low pressure over the Azores, and that low pressure gets close to the UK and forces this ridge of high pressure to come in from the east, essentially. Meanwhile, so that's next Tuesday, and same time, same areas, we've got member 2, or was it member 1? Either way, much lower temperatures, so 26 degrees there for London, mid to high teens for northern parts of the UK, 25 for France. And in this scenario, if I rewind a little bit, we've got the same low out to the southwest, but that then crosses the UK, and eventually you get a cooler airflow coming in across the northwest of the UK. What is more likely, I suspect, is a middle ground solution like member 0, that's the operational model run, and that's got low pressure to the northwest of the UK by Tuesday, high pressure to the southwest, yet a cooler airflow compared with Monday and Sunday for many parts of the UK, so temperatures down a bit. But with that high pressure coming up from the southwest, actually still plenty of fine weather from Tuesday onwards. We've still got high pressure close to the UK. In fact, I can play this forward. You see low pressure is always up towards Iceland, high pressure always close to the UK, still well above average temperatures for the UK, but we've lost those extremes, those mid to high 30s across the northwest of Europe. And it will still feel hot. We've still got strong sunshine. We've still got, in the south at least, a dominant high pressure throughout next week. But we've lost those extremes, temperatures most likely peaking Sunday or Monday. Meanwhile, the northwest of the UK most likely experiencing more changeable weather with low pressure, and you can see how temperatures are more like the mid to high teens or low 20s. So that's most likely because it's most similar to a lot of the other computer model runs and not similar to the extreme version that I showed. However, you can never discount the extremes. You know, it's like rolling a dice. You can't discount the fact that you're going to roll a 1, but you'd say it's more likely you're going to roll another number. So that's what probabilistic weather forecasting is all about. We run the computer model lots and lots of times, see what comes out. At the moment, mostly for next week, we've got high pressure, we've got a lot of fine weather to come, a lot of summer sunshine for the south in particular, but more changeable weather towards the north. Meanwhile, there are some minority, but some more extreme computer model runs that we need to keep an eye on. And yeah, I guess hope, for the sake of the populations of Northwest Europe, where we're not used to those kinds of extremes, hope that they remain in the minority, and eventually, instead, we get something a little closer to average. We can all enjoy some summer sunshine rather than something truly extreme. But here at the Met Office, we'll keep you updated on the, comings and goings of all the computer models and other stuff. And you can follow all our updates on our YouTube channel. We'll have the 10-day trend tomorrow, of course, so look out for that. But for now, that's all from me. Bye-bye.